I need to read this out to the body of Christ, which is very important revelation because many are deceived by counterfeit Christianity and witchcraft that has entered the mainstream churches of men, and it's taking place around the world, of which Jesus warned us in Matthew 24 that many false prophets shall arise and show great signs and wonders to deceive even the elect, which means Satan comes as an angel of light. It looks like the real thing, but it's counterfeit. The following is a record given by Holly L. Moody in 2000, the year 2000, April 25th. I began to see in my mind a picture of Jesus. He was sitting on a rock, and a group of people of all ages were gathered around him. They all seemed to be laughing and talking together. I felt joy and peace and happiness as I viewed the scene. At times, the Lord would reach down and bring a child onto his lap, or he would reach out and a baby would be placed into his arms. He would then gaze down into the face of the baby and speak softly and tenderly to the baby. At other times, someone would draw close to his side and would place his arms around them and draw them closer to him. An angel approached the Lord. The crowd before the Lord parted to allow the angel to draw near to the Lord. A silence fell over the laughing, joyous crowd as the angel stopped before the Lord and began to speak. From the way this angel was dressed, I sensed immediately that this was a warring angel. Being a warring angel and well aware of the coming battle of the enemy, he spoke with a strong sense of urgency and even perplexity in his voice. He was very concerned. There is a work to be done, the angel said to the Lord. Why do these people sit here idly? These are dangerous times. The people should be doing battle in prayer and in the spirit instead of sitting at your feet laughing. They are completely unaware of what is now even transpiring in the courts of hell. With great concern in his voice, the angel asked, why are you allowing this? Before continuing the vision as a sidebar to that conversation, I had the impression the angel and the Lord had been in each other's presence numerous times and had many conversations with another. What the angel said did not sound disrespectful or challenging at all. I could feel how he was feeling, and it was a genuine question in the midst of such perplexing opposition to come. The Lord gazed with love at the angel before him. Before I answer your questions, the Lord replied, take this child of mine and show them what is being planned by the enemy. Both the angel of the Lord then turned their heads and stared at me. This will be too much for her, the angel protested. Take her and show her, the Lord replied. The angel bowed his head to the Lord and then turned towards me. I began to back nervously away as the angel approached me. Where are you taking me? I asked the angel. To the enemy's camp. The angel replied, go with him, the Lord instructed me. I felt very nervous and afraid, but allowed the angel to touch me. And as the angel touched me, we were in darkness, and I felt fear engulfed me. Fear not, the angel said to me, and instantly the fear vanished. The darkness seemed to dissipate, and I discovered that the angel and I were what appeared to be a great court. A man was sitting on a large throne, and before him were gathered all types of creatures and men. This court had the appearance of a cave. When I first viewed the scene, I felt stunned. I'm not sure why. It was like something rebelled in me at what I was seeing. Who is that man on the throne? I asked the angel. And who are the creatures and men gathered before him? This is the accuser of the brethren and his armies, the angel replied. I then realized that I was in the presence of Satan. The angel informed me that this man was Satan. The fact that he was sitting on the throne amazed me. Later, when I prayed about this aspect of the vision, I felt the Lord said that Satan was trying to copy everything that Satan was trying to copy everything that was God's in heaven for himself. Satan was speaking, and I heard him say, "This will be our strategy." He then got up from his throne and went to stand in front of a large map on the wall behind him. As I stared at the map, I became aware that it was a map of the entire world. It was very hard to describe this map. The map wasn't actually pinned or hanging on the wall, but it was in front of me. But it was like I could see it from all angles. And also I could see like airwaves, wind currents, the tides of the seas, etc. I could see the hemisphere around the world, moons, stars, planets, etc. I really have no words or way to correctly put down the appearance of this map. Satan began to divide the world into sections. Then he called out names, some names. I saw the creatures and the men gathered before Satan part, and very large and strong-looking angelic beings approached Satan. I saw 4 of these mighty-looking angelic beings. I could sense the power of these beings and sense the evil and wickedness of that power. A hush had fallen over the world. "Who are these beings?" I whispered to the angel who I was with. The angel I was with seemed concerned. "They are Satan's princes." Satan began speaking, and he was assigning sections of the world to each of these princes. "You will need your armies," Satan said to them. "Choose whoever you will. All is at your disposal." The large beings then began to pick and choose who would be in their particular army. This was by no means orderly. There was a great deal of arguing, bickering, and so forth. When they were finished, they all turned back to Satan and stared at him. "Each prince will teach you our strategy to deceive and to destroy and to slay mankind," Satan said. "Go with them." The princes and their armies began to exit from the presence of Satan. The angel and I began to follow one of the groups. They went into what appeared to be a schoolroom. The prince went to the front of the schoolroom and began to instruct his army on how to devise, destroy, slay the people in their particular section of the world that had been allocated to them. The angel and I then went to each classroom. The same plans and strategies were being taught in each classroom. By the same plans, I don't mean each class was teaching the exact same thing. What I mean is that each class was very thorough in what it was teaching and on how to apply what was being taught. In some of the classrooms, they were studying political leaders, their families, homes, lifestyles, etc., were being very closely scrutinized. I felt very frightened and helpless, very overwhelmed as I saw and heard how very thorough these lessons, for lack of a better word, were. Nothing was left to chance. Every area of these political leaders' lives was being dissected and investigated and studied. Demons were being assigned on how to attack and influence and control each of these political leaders, their families and friends, even co-workers. Nothing was left to chance, nothing was overlooked. The books they read, the radio stations they listened to, etc. Everything was being discussed. The enormity of all of this was absolutely mind-boggling to me. This also occurred with the religious leaders. It was the religion classes that frightened and shocked me the most. In these classes, religions of the nations were being studied and discussed, even New Age and occult, Wicca, Tarot, and so forth were being discussed, and Buddhism, Hinduism, and so forth were being discussed. The Bibles and books and other writings for all of these religions were being read and studied. Each denomination of Christianity was being studied. The Bible being studied was the major source of information for these lessons. This was truly horrifying and shocking to me that demons were reading and studying the Bible. And it was all for the intent to twist what was written and to seek ways to misinterpret, misrepresent, etc. it to Christians. The demons were discussing ways to dilute the gospel. They were discussing ways to incorporate major beliefs from all the religions into one acceptable gospel for mankind. Some of the demons in these religion classes were ordered to infiltrate churches, were being taken into actual churches, and were watching how the people prayed, worshiped, sang, etc. They were studying how messages were being delivered to the congregations in numerous churches. They were studying the individuals who were used in the operation of the gifts of the Spirit. These individuals were followed around constantly by assigned demons who watched and listened to everything these people said and did. The friends and family members of these individuals were also studied. The demons discussed ways to drive wedges, etc., between those people who were truly being used of God and the people they went to church with, and even how to cause people's own pastors and spiritual leaders to lose faith and confidence in these people who were used in the gifts of the Spirit. I felt so angry and frustrated and helpless as I saw and heard how this was to be accomplished and how it had been initiated in many, many congregations and how it was largely succeeding. Many of these religious demons, for lack of a better word, were being taught how to sing in churches, how to dance in the Spirit, how to pray and teach. I felt at times that if I were going to vomit, as I witnessed many demons in these classrooms practicing how to worship the Lord and how to be a Christian. Seeing a demon dancing before the Lord is so awful and so sickening that there are just no words to describe it adequately. Some of these major demons could also work signs and wonders, even miracles. This is what Jesus meant in Matthew 24, that great signs and wonders shall be done by these false prophets. It comes as angels of light. Some of these demons were also being taught how to be Christ. So counterfeit Christs. This was being done by actually studying the scriptures. Seeing some of these demons acting and speaking like Christ shocked me speechless. Seeing them reading the Bible was like an abomination to me. In some of these classrooms, even UFOs and aliens were being discussed and how to deceive people through this phenomenon. There were classrooms where food and dress and slang words were being studied. Crops were being studied and discussed. All of this was just so vast. It overwhelmed me. Suddenly the classes began to leave the rooms. The angel and I followed them. They congregated back in front of Satan. Report, Satan said, how will we deceive, destroy, and slay mankind? One of the princes came forward and began to outline their plans and strategies to Satan. The people want signs and wonders and miracles from their leaders. The prince said, we know that our enemy will be and has begun already to grant this unto his children. We will slip in with a counterfeit move and deceive many who have taught our armies how to mimic worship, praise, and looking and acting like a true believer. We will give unto our armies the ability to work signs, wonders, and even miracles, but while all become focused upon these outward manifestations, others of us will begin behind the scenes to dilute the message of the gospel. We will accomplish this partly through speaking to the people about God's true nature. We will allow people to create God into what and who they want him to be. Good, Satan said, very good. The prince began to speak again. When the people have created their own vision of God, then we will give them our God." The crowd before Satan began to cheer wildly. "We must depart," the angel urged me. Suddenly we were back before the Lord. He was still in the midst of his children, laughing with them, talking to them, and touching them. You see, this is intimacy. Because if we know the right, we can distinguish the wrong. A silence fell over the group once again as the angel I was with once more approached the Lord. The angel reported to the Lord all we had heard and seen in hell. The angel was very concerned and distressed, asking, Why are you just sitting here with the people? Why haven't they been sent to begin the battle? How will they be able to discern this coming great deception if they aren't even aware that it is coming?" The Lord became grave, as the Lord became grave. His face as he looked at his children was slight, and his great love for them was a light. His face as he looked at his children was a light with his great love for them. I noticed tears in his eyes. Then he turned his head and looked at the angel speaking with him. "My children will know the false by knowing the true," the Lord said. "The longer they spend in my presence, the more they will know my voice when they hear it. A voice of a stranger they will not follow. But the enemy has those who have been taught to speak just as you do," the angel protested. "They sound almost just like you." "Almost," the Lord replied gently. "Almost they sound like me. Only my sheep, who have lingered long in my presence, will know the voice of the true shepherd. And this is why I spend so much time with my children. I spend as much time with them as they allow me to. I know very well what the enemy is planning. My plans are plans of love and fellowship." The angel and the Lord both fell silent as they gazed at the crowd before the Lord. "Love them well," the angel replied. "Yes, a battle is coming," the Lord sighed, and I saw tears in his eyes. "Great wickedness and persecution upon my children, my true children who know my voice. A time of wickedness and persecution such as never been seen or experienced. Yet in the midst of it all, I will move, I will bless, I will speak, I will love, I will win." There are those of my children who sense much of this. They are the ones who will never stop praying and interceding, not even in times of seeming peace. "What about me, Lord?" I asked, and the angel and the Lord looked at me. "Pray," the Lord replied. "Tell the prayer warriors to strengthen themselves and their brothers and sisters in the times of peace. I'll be pouring out my spirit upon all nations and peoples. It will spread to even the most unlikely of all places: television, magazines, newspapers, radios, even the internet. And it will be here that the battle will truly begin and the deception begin." The Lord stood up. "It is time." The angel asked him. "It is time," the Lord replied. Then I was no longer with the Lord or the angel, but praying once again. John 10 is in my mind, especially verse 14. "I am the good shepherd, and know my sheep, and am known of mine." So we need to get distractions out of our lives, dearly beloved, and realize the lateness of the hour. What has become of your first love? Are you distracted by the ways of this world? Then go before the Father in all seriousness and humility and ask Him to empower you to take inventory of your life and remove every person, every distraction, every carnal desire and thing, even in the foundations of your being, by which the enemy might attach himself to steer your heart away from him. These are serious times, and God's people need to awake to the reality and the lateness of the hour.